I think for me, the biggest challenge has been driving a process adoption, a change to the way of doing business, right? And the advice that I received when I talk to somebody who like leads a very large team and has been here for many, many years, to me, she was like, Vish, just make it simple. Make it as simple as possible to the point where people are just pressing a button and it's getting done. And I think for me, in the beginning, I was like, wow, this technology is like so cool. It can do so much. And people were like, well, we're already using like Perplexity. Why aren't you just getting your tool inside of Perplexity? And I was like, oh, well, like the MCP doesn't exist yet in this tool. And they don't want to hear it. They don't care. Like they just want you to like not
Yeah.
tell them that they have to do another step when they're already trying to do like 500 steps, right? And so then I started to take a different approach where I'm like, okay, you know what? You show me what you're doing. And you can kind of quickly pick up people who are really good at their jobs and you can see like what they're doing. And then you're like, oh, okay, so I'm just going to try to get my stuff to work in this person's stuff. And then if they adopt it, it's just going to get adopted. You kind of figure that out over time. Like who are the people that are the champions within their org? Who are like kind of those leaders in that group, like in that little social group that you really need to win over. So if you win them over, then everyone's going to kind of get won over, right? So I think trying to figure that out. Also being open to feedback. And I still get feedback all the time. I'll roll out something. And for me, adoption is part of the problem, but also like token optimization and credit usage.
Oh, big
I'll
one.
roll out something to someone and they have amazing results. I'll roll out the exact same thing to someone else and they have terrible results or, just not as good. And then they won't be like, oh, they won't necessarily go and look at the person that had great results and see, oh, how can I self-improve? And you also don't want to have that awkward conversation like, well, this person did all these things. You didn't do all those things, right? It's instead like,
Yeah.
oh, let me bring the learnings. My shared goal is I want everyone to be successful and adopt this technology, right? So I think, yeah, this is age old and also something you bring from your ops life, right? Is identify the influencers and champions within one group and then just kind of be really good friends with them and make them successful so that they can then go and help you drive that adoption.
That's interesting. You reverse engineer the thing. Like instead of saying like, okay, this is the most capable tool for this output we want, you're more like, okay, how does this guy do the thing? Okay, it's using those steps and maybe we can fit those tools or maybe tweak it a little so it fits their processes. So you bring the tools to them instead of bringing them to the tool.
Yeah, meet the seller where they're at.
Makes sense. I like it. You just need, as you said, probably that's why you're targeting the champion for each teams or categories. Otherwise, you would have like maybe 10 ways to do something and you're like, okay, I can't be that custom. I can't have, 10 variation of the thing. You have to centralize and have some tools that are doing this. That's it. So you bring the leader of this group and that's the new norm, sort of.
Yeah, and it might not even, it might not be the person that's given that leader title. You just kind of can see when you're interacting with teams, right? And some of this is harder to do when it's virtual, right? But when you're in a group setting, you kind of see who has influence, who do people listen to, right? And just that's the other time when you can like use your humanity to understand other humans and get them to adopt AI.
I was about to say that. That's once more relationship, humans' relationships that are making the difference with both IT and the team to adapt the change, the tools. That's a good lesson here, I think. That brings me to this, I would say, the third layer of this same problem, which is adopting AI in an organization. You mentioned it as well, and I find it fascinating. That's the vendors themselves, the tools themselves, which maybe might be the most capable or the one we are used to use for X, Y, and Z. But if, as you said, they do not interconnect, which I think I need to do an episode dedicated to this topic because it's like such a big challenge. Like how much as a SaaS provider, as a tool provider, how much do you open your tool to the external world so an agent can play around within the tool? How much do you want to be protective of it? Where is the limit? Where's the cursor? I think it's such a wide topic. But from the user side, the buyer side, which is where you are, that's a no-brainer anymore. Like that's a go, no-go criteria. Do you open this to be integrated in our system? Yes, you can come in. No, you're out. Is that
yeah,
strict?
like if a tool, if I notice that a vendor doesn't have MCP on their roadmap, or if they're not like working with me to go do it, I actually have been very lucky. All of the tools I manage, everyone's pretty forward thinking. Even in those early days where I kind of felt like I was talking crazy, you'd meet little like people within the org that would eventually find me and be like, hey, like you should talk to our product person because it seems like customers like you. And I think this is where, had I been at one of the smaller companies I worked at, maybe people wouldn't have taken me so seriously. But with the NVIDIA name, at least, it has been like where the vendors take you quite seriously and they are willing to partner with you. So I'm lucky in that way. But yes, like if you're in a smaller company and you're newer in the world or you're trying to learn, I think you want to go with the vendors that are AI native. Look at their customer list, look at what things they have on their roadmap. Can they give you actual dates for when they're going to get things like an MCP done? But yeah, in this day and age, if in the next 6-7 months they're not going to go and try to have an MCP connector, do I want to onboard the vendor? For right now, at least my answer is no. And I can't predict the future. Maybe MCP will be completely dead, 2 years from now, and I'll look back at this episode and be like, oh my God, what was I thinking? But for now, like
I'm not so sure.
where this is the vision I've been marching towards for over a year now. And I told my vendors actually in those days when I was coming back and I was so overwhelmed with my personal, having a newborn and then also my work life, I had a very limited, I was going to get what I can get done in my 8 hours and then maybe a couple hours after the kid was asleep. But I had to get it done and I didn't want to prioritize. And my manager was supportive of this. It's like, I'm just going to prioritize the people who have the stuff. And if you don't have the stuff and you have no plan to get the stuff, I'm just not going to prioritize the projects that are with your vendor until you have this up and running. And I think I probably wasn't, the favorite customer of a few of these vendors, but I definitely, I got some things really quickly rolled out. And I think that's a big part of it. It's also another thing you didn't ask me, but I'll share anyways, is, for me,
Please.
it's a matter of being able to learn, like, how can I maximize my learnings? If you have an AI native vendor who's comfortable with you, right, they can call you out. And I've had vendors tell me like, yeah, so your approach to this, maybe not the best. Like we work with thousands of customers like you, and this is what the most successful ones have done. Maybe you should do it that way instead. And I'm very open to that feedback. I want them to tell me that. I want them to go and make connections for me and introduce me to the people that are doing it right. And I'm sure you yourself, you're probably interacting with so many people and you see who fails and who survives quite quickly. So I think that's the advantage of working with vendors that are ahead or staying ahead.